Now let me go through with you some of the national validation trials. I mentioned the ACRIN national CTC trial. This was in over 2,500 screening type patients. And as I mentioned, we were one of the sites. It used state-of-the-art technique with tagging and carbon dioxide insufflation. And these were the results. And you can see at the 9 millimeter and 10 millimeter and larger marks that we have 90% per patient sensitivity. Now, you're going to look at this and you're going to say there is decreasing sensitivity with decreasing polyp size. But the same comment can be said for colonoscopy as well. Per patient specificity is good and fairly consistent across all polyp size categories. There are multiple national trials that have been carried out in other countries, some that are ongoing as well. The first one that I'll talk about is the one from Italy called the IMPACT study. Note that this was in a large number of patients but carried out in symptomatic patients, so not in screening patients. When you look at the results, they are remarkably similar to the ACRIN study results. And again, at the 9 millimeter and 10 millimeter mark, these are your clinically significant polyps. You can see a 90–91% per patient sensitivity. And again, you'll see that there is a drop-off in the sensitivity as you go down to the 6 millimeter mark, but certainly acceptable and similar to what you would see with colonoscopy. Specificity also is fairly constant across all size categories. This is from Germany, the Munich trial. And although it's a smaller number of patients, this was carried out in a screening asymptomatic average risk patient cohort. And the results are excellent. You can see that at the 9 millimeter and larger category, both by polyp and by patient sensitivity, 94–92%, high specificity as well, and similarly for the 6 millimeter and larger polyps. There's a Japanese trial that has just finished across 13 sites, a large number of patients, but in high-risk subjects. And I think that this study will be very interesting because they actually have an arm of the study where they compare radiologist reads with gastroenterologist interpretations. So we're anxiously awaiting those results. This is out of England, the CIGAR trial, and has completed across 21 sites, but again in high-risk patients. And they had also two interesting arms. One was CTC versus double contrast barium enema, and then one comparing it to optical colonoscopy. And the findings show that CTC basically outperformed double contrast barium enema. It detected more polyps and missed fewer cancers at the 3-year follow-up mark. Compared to optical colonoscopy, you can see that there was equivalent sensitivity for both polyps and cancers, although CTC did miss one cancer at the 3-year follow-up mark. And I just wanted to show this slide to you to give you a sense of how CTC really has spread internationally and globally. This first publication was out of Canada by Giles Stevenson. It's beginning to seem rather irresponsible to continue to offer routine double contrast barium enema exams. More than 90 Canadian radiology departments have bought the necessary CO2 insufflators, so there is clearly great interest. And this was back in 2008, and I've talked to Giles since, and it really has spread across Canada. The next publication was from Israel. From 2000 to 2007, over 15,000 CTC exams were performed, 14% at public hospitals, 86% at private clinics. And you can see that they use state-of-the-art technique. And then the third one was out of Sweden. CTC currently performed in 42% of radiology departments. Of those not performing CTC, 38% intended to start shortly. And you can see again that they use state-of-the-art technique. So clearly catching on globally. Now, this is to address one of the areas of concern that Medicare had, which was they wanted specific studies showing validation of CTC in a Medicare age patient population, so age 65 and above. And so in short order, you can see between 2010 and 2012, there were 4 studies that were published documenting that when you compared performance, comparing the senior cohort to a younger non-senior cohort, that there was no statistically significant difference in the prevalence of advanced neoplasia identified or the colonoscopy referral rate. There is a trend for a higher colonoscopy referral rate, and that actually kind of makes sense because as you get older, there's a higher incidence of polyps.